about the mindset. Because once you fix that, everything else works out. Because if your mindset's not there, you could be the best technical analyst, but it's not going to work. So, without further ado, I want to introduce you to Desi. He's in the space as well, and we met at the Trading Psychology conference that we did. So he was a speaker there, and I was one of the speakers as well, and we got connected there. And since then, I was, watching this stuff pop up on my Instagram, and I was like, all right, it would be nice to have him, help you guys to get past some of your trading issues. So you guys had sent me some of the things that you were struggling with, or some of the issues that you had. So I had forwarded them all to Desi, and he's going to be touching up on that. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you. I think you are co-host, so you should be all set. But yeah, without further ado, let's get ready to take some notes.
Excellent. Happy to be here, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Coming in clear? Excellent. Cool. So definitely happy that Anmol invited me to help you guys out. I got some of your prompts here, so we'll be talking over that. Let me bring up my screen here real quick so we can see this all together. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Excellent. All right, let's bring this up here. So we're going to be going over overcoming some challenges in trading. Before we fully get into that, little introduction for myself. As I mentioned, my name is Des Ludiano. I've been in the trading space for a little over 5 years. I started focusing a lot more on trading psychology 1 year after I started, because my first mentors, as even Anmol mentioned, everybody's on charts and trading strategies, but they never really taught me about, trading psychology, managing your emotions. And I had to learn, unfortunately, the hard way on how to work through all those things. So I really wanted to have that as a main focus. So of course I can learn myself and also help others who may not have had that training and knowledge to better help them in their trading. Today, since we're a little limited on time, only kind of here for like an hour or so, I'm going to touch over some general points over some things that you guys mentioned. Any questions that you may have, you can definitely put it either in the chat or hold it towards the end where we have the Q&A session. And some of the things that I saw you guys mention, I would definitely love to go into a lot more detail. However, the way I'm going to structure the slides today is going to be like general over some things, and I'll kind of speak on them, and then we'll move on to the other ones. So without further ado, let's get the party started. So first and foremost, for those who may not be familiar on why we even get emotional while we're trading, right? You may be getting a trade and you're like, why did I get angry because of that? Or why am I feeling anxious? I'm just looking at charts. But a lot of this has to do with how we were programmed, right? So the way that our ancestors lived, there wasn't necessarily any room for risking or leaving things up to probability when everything for us back then was life and death, right? We evolved to develop a certainty-based mindset in order to survive. And this does not mix well when it comes to trading, since there is no certainty in trading. Everything is only probability. So when our livelihood, which is now money, is threatened, our brain kicks in the survival programming to keep us safe. So in this example, let's say we're all hanging out way back in the day in caveman days, and we see a bush shake, right? We're not going to be like, oh, it might be a squirrel or something. We're going to be like, actually, that might be a bear, a tiger, something. I'm running and I'm getting out of here. Same thing for trading. When we get into a trade, we don't know if we're going to win or not. And our brain is going to kick in that fight or flight to get us to get away from that situation and do whatever it needs to be done to get us to stop that. That making sense? Anybody ever experienced that? Getting a trade, start getting emotional, getting scared, you mess around with the trade? I know I definitely have. Cool. So one thing that you guys mentioned was having some difficulty with handling losses. A good thing that I like to do is really reframing the way we approach and we look at losses. So losses, as some of us who've been trading for a while understand now that they're an unavoidable part of trading, but how we respond to them will often determine, whether we grow or if we spiral into bad habits. A lot of traders, from what I've seen, and even myself included in the past, we struggle by letting a single trade often trigger frustration or other emotions that come up, which then lead us to revenge trading, over trading, in an attempt to make the money back. Now, being in this cycle, it's really going to drain your account and really chip away at your confidence and staying in the game of trading. However, by learning to accept these losses as feedback as opposed to on the negative side and resisting the urge to force trades, it's going to be a step in the right direction for long term consistency for you guys. So, just to recap on that, if you came into trading to not lose, it's going to be a rough time for you because losing is part of the process, right? We cannot escape it. Everything, as I mentioned a little earlier, is based on probability. Even if you have the best setup with 99.9% win rate, you still have that 0.01%. So you are going to lose. And it's really best to just accept them as they come and understand that they're here to teach us and help us learn more about the charts and ourselves so we continue to improve. Let's go over some quick little tips and tech strategies that we can do to help with this. So some things that we can do is analyzing the trade, right? So instead of once we take this loss, we beat ourselves up. Oh man, this was a stupid trade. Oh man, I messed up. Let's instead look at it in the sense of what can I learn from this loss? What can I learn from this trade? Can I maybe instead wait for one of my criteria to set up that I may have missed? As Brent mentioned earlier, he didn't do his routine. That's a really big thing, right? Being in a proper headspace and being focused when we're getting into the trading session. Did I mess up because I was a little absent-minded or I was a little tired or whatever it may have been, right? What's the ultimate lesson that I can learn from this so I can avoid that and prepare myself to be better in the future? The second thing that we can really work on is for those who, I'd imagine most people here, I'm sure Anmol has drilled it into you guys to journal all your trades, right? Journal everything that happens. The more details that we can collect when we trade and from our losses, the better it's going to be. So, for example, let's say I didn't sleep that well last night, but I decided to trade anyway, where I know that I shouldn't be trading when I'm tired. By looking at, let's say, a pattern, let's say you have 3 weeks of red trades and they're usually on Wednesday. And what you've noticed based on your journaling is that from Tuesday to Wednesday, maybe you have something that you have to do outside of your life that doesn't let you sleep properly from Tuesday to Wednesday. So we can be like, all right, well, if that specific day, if I'm not sleeping properly, maybe I should just completely skip trading on Wednesdays because my sleep isn't the best it can be that day. So the more we can learn from our losses and from journaling, the better it's going to be for future trades that we take. The next thing that is really important that I always emphasize for everybody is to have some self-reflection, right? When it comes to taking a trade, if you took your trade with all the criteria that you look for and you either win or you lose, over time, at least in my experience, the emotional response that we get to it lessens, right? Like, cool, if I win a trade that I took as I should have, cool, wait for the next one. If I lose it, it is what it is. The market just against me. Keep it moving. However, what I find is that early on when I was first starting trading and other people that I've worked with is an important thing to ask yourself is what does the loss mean to you? Because the reaction that we get from that loss may be from something going on in our life, maybe something that we want to make happen in trading, many different things, right? So let's say, for an example, let's say you take a loss, and I really hope nobody here is doing this. Let's say you take a loss and you get frustrated because you're using money that you may need for something else, right? Let's say you use that money for a vacation that you may have had planned so you can stay longer on the vacation, whatever it may be. And because of that, losing money that you had for the vacation made you even more upset on that trade. So we can take these moments to learn more about ourselves and what's actually causing us to get these emotional reactions from these losing trades. Because again, whether you take your trade and it works out perfectly or it loses, but you did everything you were supposed to do, to me, that's a good trade, right? It shouldn't really evoke any emotional response because it just did what it was supposed to do. The second thing that we can do for self-reflection is really looking at the bigger picture, right? Many traders, myself included in the past, get so caught up in a single red day that it causes us to derail and make a lot of mistakes, right? You over leverage, you revenge trade to get that money back, and all these other different things that happen. However, let's look at the big picture. I always like to look at it in the terms of what is a red day in a green week, or what is a red week in a green month, or what is a red month in a green quarter, or a red month in a green year, right? Always look at the bigger picture. Let's look at, for example, these big companies. Amazon doesn't say, hey, we had a really bad week. Let's revamp our whole process, or let's do this right now. They're going to take the entire data from the quarter, and they're going to see what they did right, what they could improve on, and what they can do in the future to get potentially better results, right? Same thing when it comes to us. Always look at the bigger picture. Don't get tunnel vision and get locked up in just one single day, because that's not going to define you as a trader. We need to look at the big picture to see exactly what's going on. Is this making sense? Anybody ever look at it that way, or get stuck in looking at it in like a day-to-day thing as opposed to a bigger picture? Cool. Yeah, we've all been there. It's a rite of passage. It gets easier over time. Now, for some of you, I want to quickly share some journaling prompts that can help you. This is the way that I journal. I keep track of all this information. Now, of course, if you use an online journal, it collects a lot of this information for you. But let's take some examples really quickly here. I won't go over all of them, just some of them. Let's say number 4 in the daily review, the time of trade, right? When did you take this specific trade? Did you take it in the afternoon? Did you take it in the morning time? And did it win? Did it lose? And consistently over time, do you usually make more money in the beginning of the day, in the afternoon, so on and so forth? So we can learn from this prompt for ourselves in the sense of, let's look at our journal. Do I tend to make more money in the morning and then give it back in the afternoon? If that is the case, then we can look at this objectively to better ourselves in the future and just refine our process, right? If I'm making money in the morning, but I'm giving it away in the afternoon more often than I'm making money in the afternoon, I might just want to completely eliminate the afternoon trading and just focus on the morning time. I know for me, I used to trade for at least 8 to 10 hours a day when I first started, and that thing burnt me out. And what I've noticed that the longer I stayed on the charts, the more I started to not see this chart clearly. My focus wasn't 100% there as it was when I first started. So I would give a lot more money in the afternoon from what I would make in the morning. So I completely eliminated the afternoon trading for myself. Another thing that can help you understand yourself and what habits that you may need to work on is, let's say, number 7, how did you feel before the trade, after the trade, and during the trade? Before the trade, were you feeling tired, which caused you to make a mistake? Were you feeling FOMO, which caused you to jump into the trade earlier? Things like this, right? And let's say number 8, what type of trade did you take? So we can learn what type of trader we are. Some people excel at day trading, some people excel at swing trading. So it's really about refining and getting to the technique that works best for us, right? I personally prefer to day trade, even though I do have some swing trades here and there, but that's just my cup of tea. And that's what I'm comfortable with. Everybody's different, of course. All of this resonating? I just saw your message, Ruba. I would also encourage you guys not to use self-demeaning language with yourselves. Maybe flip that to something positive, because I wouldn't call ourselves any idiots or dumb or stupid. We just need to refine the way we approach the charts in a more professional and technical way. Cool. Let's continue. Actually, one last thing I want to touch up on that one of you mentioned in the survey is where you have this urge to make it all back. When it comes to trading, you don't necessarily want to have your focus on the money because you're throwing away your process and all your rules and stuff that got you the money to begin with. When you're too focused on making the money back, that's when you can make a mistake. Like, let's say you lost $1,000 last week and you're so focused on making that $1,000 back that this can lead to over leveraging, right? You double your position size to make that money back. And what ends up happening? You lose even more money. Or you're so focused on making that money back that let's say you're in a trade today and that trade, let's just say that you're at $1,000 and you'll cut the trade early to make up for that loss last week. But what ends up happening, you cut the trade early and it ends up going to your max target or the other targets you had, and you would have made $2,000. So we always want to go into the trading session with a focus on just focusing on what on our plan, our rules, and our trade setups, right? Because that's where the money is going to come from. If you're too focused on the money, you're going to make these common mistakes that tend to happen, which we want to avoid. Because we really want to maximize every trading session instead of trying to make up for prior ones. Because every trading session is going to be different. Sometimes you'll make a lot, sometimes you'll make a little, sometimes you won't even make anything, or you'll lose a little, right? It's to be expected. Let's get into risk management next. So, risk management is going to be your number one priority as a trader in managing your risk. So, managing your risk is going to be crucial when trading because it's going to help protect your capital from significant losses, ensuring that you stay in the game over the long term. By setting clear risk parameters, such as using stop losses, proper position sizing, you can prevent these emotional decision making and avoid overexposing yourself to any single trade. And having proper risk management is going to allow you to handle the inevitable losses, the inevitable losing trades without damaging your overall portfolio and keeping your strategy intact. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, you cannot escape losses. I wish we could have a 100% win rate, but that's not the reality of trading, right? We are going to get in these moments of losing trades, right? It's part of the business. And with discipline, remember, it's not about avoiding losses because you can't do that. It's really about creating consistency and staying in the trading business as long as you can when these emotions come up to try to push you to break your plan. So let's say, as an example, let's say you have a $10,000 account. If you have a $10,000 account and you want to risk $200 a trade, you have 50 trades in a row of losing before the account was blown, right? So you have a big amount of space between where the account blows up compared to somebody who may over leverage and let's say use 20% of their account. So using $2,000 per trade that they're willing to risk. They only have 5 trades before the account is done. Now, sure, some people might think, hey, let me over leverage. I make more money. I might lose more money, but I'll make more money overall. Let's say probability is simply just against you for those 5 trades in a row. Now you have $0. Your account is done. Whereas opposed to you had $10,000 and you used to only $200 loss per trade, you're only down $1,000 and you're at 9,000. So you're still in the business of trading, and you can continue waiting for more setups to appear, right? So always be sure to follow your risk management guideline, whatever that may be, and stick to it. Because ironically, sometimes we think that if we over leverage or if we put a bigger position size, we're going to make more money and it's going to get us closer to our goals. But what ends up happening is the opposite. Because we're over leveraging, we're going to be looking at trading as more of from an emotional standpoint as opposed to a logical standpoint, which is going to lose us more money, which is going to get us further away from our goal, right? Anybody ever been there? This definitely happened to me the first year that I was trading, where I'll give you guys a quick little story where my mother was sick and pretty much nobody was there to take care of her but me. And I'm like, all right, if I double my position size, I can make a lot more money to reach my goals because I had to put my life on hold for a while. So I'm like, let me just double my size or even triple my size in some examples, and I'll make more money, get closer to the goal that I want. And unfortunately, that did not happen. I ended up losing a lot more money, and I was in drawdown for about 6 months, which took a toll mentally on me. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So, risk management, always, always, always have to follow it because you don't want to, again, blow your account. Now you're pretty much back at square one, or technically a negative square because now you're losing money and you have to put more money back in the account. Some quick little practices that you guys can do. You know, having a clear set of rules, as mentioned earlier. I'm not sure how exactly Amno has you guys structure your rules and stuff. I personally like to print my rules and keep them laminated at my desk because when I can visually see them and I go over them before the trading session, I'm instilling that in myself and my subconscious to always follow these things, right? In the beginning, I would have my rules in a journal, somewhere in another room, somewhere hidden, where I'm like, oh man, I forgot. I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done that instead. I broke my rule for whatever reason. But when we have them visually in front of us, it makes it easier for us to stick with them. And quickly going over some of mine, my first rule is I do not trail while I'm tired because when I'm tired, it's going to make me more susceptible to being a little emotional when I'm trading, and I'm not going to be 100% focused and clear on what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do. A second horrible habit that I had when I first started was trading in bed, right? I'll wake up half awake, not really knowing what's going on, get on my phone, put some options trade, and then lose. And I'm like, why am I not making money? And it's like, you're tired, you don't have the full picture of the market, and you're not even coherent. So I do not trade in bed. I have to be at my desk where I have the full picture, all my time frames are up, and I know exactly what's going on. If that's not present, there's really nothing that I can do. Dhruva, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I have I guess something of a question and then something of a confession. Um, so I have a very hard time dealing with the FOMO of not trading. So there are times when I know I shouldn't trade for whatever reason because I'm tired or I stayed out late last night, blah, blah, blah. Um, but the missing of the market, the missing of the chat room, all of the excitement that happens in trading is almost too much to keep me away. Like today, for example, last night I was spending my night like over a toilet. I had entirely too much to drink, and I slept for an hour or two, and I got up and I'm trading. And today it worked out. I made some money, but it doesn't always work out, and usually it doesn't work out, as I'm sure we all know. So how do you fight that feeling, the feeling of like, okay, I was irresponsible last night, and now I'm like almost punishing myself by not getting to trade because I like trading.
Mhm. So for that, I would say it could be a little difficult. How long have you been trading for?
Oh, like 5 years.
Oh, interesting. By now, I'd imagine that that would be a little easier, but it sounds like you're still in
No,
that one of those points.
no, no, no.
Um, I can see the allure of trading. We're making money. We're pretty much doing it on our own time with our own rules. The biggest thing is just going to be working on your self-control and your discipline, right? Because I always like to look at it as taking a different approach. So let's say in your case, you went to bed late, you wake up and you have the urge and the feeling to trade.
Mhm.
And then what is the approach that you take? You get on your computer or your phone or what have you, and you start trading.
Right.
We instead just have to switch that with a different, take a different approach to it. So a different sequence of events. We're going to break that habit. So instead, what can you do? Let's say if you're not supposed to be trading, right? Maybe
Right.
you go outside with some friends if that's an option, or you can potentially pick up a hobby or something to occupy your time that you're
Yeah.
not always used to just running to the charts, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it sounds like yeah, you're kind of pointing to a discipline thing. It's even to the point where like I will be in a like in a car on a way to a music festival, and I'm still trading because I just like trading. So the discipline aspect of it has been, one area to work on. But I'm wondering, do you have any like tips? Like, would you recommend like I guess watching the session and not trading it, or maybe trading paper? Have you tried any of those things? Have they helped kind of assuage that feeling of um, FOMO, I guess?
I
Anyone?
have done that in the past.
Mhm.
Like I've paper traded to kind of just get the urge out without actually
Take
potentially
the edge off.
destroying my
Yeah.
actual account,
Uh-huh.
right? Um, yeah, Desiree just mentioned not even opening the chart. That's what I do now because
Yeah.
I like it, the biggest thing is really knowing yourself, right?
Right.
I already know myself. If I get the urge to trade night and I turn on my computer and I get on the charts, I'm going to place a trade no
Yeah.
matter what.
Same.
So it's like in your case, if you know yourself and you know that you are going to place a trade no matter what, we can either switch it for now just to ease you into it with either paper trading. That
Mhm.
way, just as you work on like not even getting on the charts to begin with. But if you are enticed to, just paper trade and then slowly reduce it from there.
Yeah.
But definitely not even getting on and muting everything, anything trading related, the groups, Discord, what have you. Just keep all that silent and just go do something else. But I totally get it. Like I love trading. I would be on it every single day if I could. But unfortunately, since I know myself, there are some days that I actually should not be trading. So I would say in your case, start off with just the small portion of just paper trading if you are really enticed to trade when you're not supposed to.
Mhm.
Or just don't even open the chart to begin with, because we have to just lower the enticement that comes up when we start getting to these things, right?
Mhm.
And we'll start there.
Michael. Yeah, it's like a cocaine addiction isn't an addiction as long as it's as long as you're high functioning, right?
I
Yeah,
think
thanks.
for me, Michael and Dhruv as well, is like in these moments, like what you mentioned, right? Like today, you were hungover, you went to bed too late, partying, or what have you, and it worked out.
Right.
That's creating a bad habit mentally, where the way I like to look at trades, it's not a good trade if you make money or a bad trade if you lose money. It's really looking at how did you perform, right? Did I follow my plan? Did I follow my rules? Whatever that may be. If so, for today, even though you made money, I
Mhm.
would consider your performance as a poor performance for the day because you went against what you knew that you shouldn't have been doing, right? On top of that, really holding yourself to a higher standard. Let's say you owned a hedge fund and
Right.
you had your traders come in, and let's say you had this trader come in consistently, like, super tired. They went to bed late, they were out partying, and then they kind of cost you money. Is that somebody that you would keep employed at your firm?
Mm. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like always putting ourselves in those frame of minds. Like, what I want this to be done at my firm, what I want somebody working for me doing this,
Right.
and then we have to put ourselves with that type of standard to continue, right? And avoid those mistakes. Because what you're doing, what you may be doing now is you're training your brain. And, even though I'm tired, I can
Yeah.
still go ahead and place a trade. But then over time, you know, you might actually lose money more than you're winning by continuing to do that. So slowly reducing the time that you spend on the charts, or even not
Mhm.
even getting on to begin with, or paper trading, as we mentioned,
Mhm.
I think will help you. And if you don't have any hobbies outside of this and like, your modeling and everything else, definitely do your best to do that, just to
Yeah,
not affect your trading too much.
for sure.
Thanks for sharing. Appreciate that.
Michael.
Let's continue. So the next step is, if you have issues with your disciplines with your trades, let's say you're FOMOing or you're jumping into trades, stuff like that, you can have specific criteria for your setups. Let's use some for the sake of the conversation. Let's say somebody uses VWAP and some EMA crossover strategy. Let's say in order for you to take a long setup, you need the price to be above VWAP and then like an EMA cross or whatever that was. I haven't looked into that in a long time. But anyway, you have, let's say, these two pieces of criteria, right? And if those are not present, then you basically can't take the trade. A practice that I gave to one of my students is he prints out all his criteria for his trades and he has to physically check them off. And if all of the criteria aren't met, then he can't do anything, right? And that'll help us to stop making these impulsive trades that tend to come up when, you know, we over leverage or what have you, when we get emotional while we're trading. As I mentioned earlier as well with risk management, you know, have a predetermined amount of risk that you're okay with per trade. Because if you're losing 200 here, 500 here, 400 there, 1,000 there, there's too much inconsistencies with how much you're risking per the trade. So your emotions may be out of whack and cause you to make mistakes, right? So we want to kind of keep it in a similar realm on what we're willing to risk when it comes to our trades, right? And again, the goal is to stay in trading as long as we can because we are going to have those moments where, you know, we might have a red week or even a red month. But we have to be able to survive them and not over leverage ourselves to lose a lot more than we're comfortable with or that the account can handle. Because then you'll just be wiping out months of progress. Second, for I know some of you mentioned that you have some trouble sometimes, like honoring your stop losses. Something that I like to do, and I would encourage you guys as well, you know, I'd imagine most of the platforms that we're using are modern ones. So we can, for the most part, depending what you're using, you can fully automate your trades, right? You can automate when you get in, when you take your profit, when you get stopped out, all of these things. So if you find yourself not honoring it, or if you're using a mental stop and you're like, well, I'll give it some more room, and then it goes lower, let me hope a little bit. It'll come back to my entry, or it'll come up a little higher, and then I'll get out. All bad habits to do. So the more we can program the software that we're using, the better it's going to be for us, right? One thing that you can do as well, I'd imagine if somebody trades futures here, some futures platform allow you to have like a max loss. So it'll pretty much lock you out when it comes to hitting like your max loss for the day or a specific amount of losing trades for the day, whatever it may be. I personally use that when I'm trading futures. I also have a rule for me that 3 of my trades, if they're losers for the day, doesn't matter if it's like, you know, 1 winning trade, then 2 losers or 3 losers after that. Once I hit 3 losses, I'm completely done for the day. Either something's going on with me where I'm messing up, or something's going on with the market conditions that they're not suitable for my strategy. So I just need to pack up, come back another day. So use all the tools that you have for your advantage, right? If you have trouble moving your trades or moving your stop loss, just set it, turn off your screen, set your alerts, and go do something else. And then come back to your screen after your alert goes off. Because once we get into the trade, there's literally nothing else for us to do. We just have to wait some more. And that's pretty much all trading is. You wait for your setup comes, you get into it, and then you wait some more. It's in between the waiting and letting the trade pan out where we get ourselves into trouble, where we start moving our stop losses, where we start getting a little anxious or emotional and then messing with the trade, taking profits early, so on and so forth. Anybody here use their platform to automate their trades to make it easier for themselves?
Mm-hmm. Chester, are you in the call? No, guess not.
Cool.
Yeah, we have a couple of traders that are automating a large part of their process.
Ollie definitely does it for 3-bar plays.
Oh yes, Ollie does too.
Highly
I think you
recommend.
had a thing as well, right?
Yeah, definitely just make trading easy for yourself. Don't overcomplicate it. You know, if you have the tools, please use them. Next, let's go over some emotional cycles, regulation techniques, and simplifying your trading process. So, of course, as a lot of us have known for we've been trading for a while, trading is going to come with these emotional highs and lows. You're going to make a lot of money, going to be super happy, going to lose money, going to be pretty down in the dumps. Now, what we don't want to do is let these cycles control your decisions, because we really need to learn how to manage them, right? Thankfully, with emotional regulation techniques like breathing exercises, journaling, learning more about ourselves and what affects us, and really learning when to step away from the charts will really help bring balance and keep the mind clear during these moments of pressure while we're trading. My personal go-tos is really breathing exercises, because what tends to happen to me is, the emotional response when we go on tilt, it's not immediate, right? It's kind of a buildup of different thoughts and emotions that come up. However, there's always some physical tells that may happen, right? Like for me, the first thing that happens to me is I'll get laser visioned and I'll stop blinking and I'll just start staring at the charts. That's like step one for me. Step two is I'll start gripping my mouse real tight and my breathing gets shallow. I stop breathing properly and in a relaxed state. And then the third final step for me that I need to like abandon everything and close everything down, just run out of my trading room, is I start sweating, right? Once I start noticing that, I immediately have to turn everything off and just go do my practice if I haven't done it already. Because if I stay on, I'm going to be taken over by my emotions and I'm going to make mistakes. So I encourage you guys, if those of you, if you're not too sure just yet on what the process is on when you get emotional, you can record yourself while you're trading, or you can write down your symptoms as you're trading to see exactly what the sequence of events are. That way, you know when to take a step back and be like, whoa, all right, this thing is happening. Sweating is the last step in the um, sequence before I go full tilt and I start to get into revenge trading or over trading or whatever it may be, or fearful trading. So for me, I like to do breathing exercises, specifically box breathing, because I pretty much have to close my eyes, which is going to remove the stimulus of the charts. And then I have to focus on counting my breaths in 4 different sequences. And I personally do it when I'm not at my desk. I just like, go outside my patio or what have you. I know some of you may not have that ability if you're at work, but just do the best that you can, right? Minimize your charts, sit down with yourself for a few minutes and just come back to a relaxed state. Because when these emotions come up, our amygdala, the emotional part of our brain is going to come up and get activated, which is going to turn off our logical mind. And it's really going to come up and make us make all these mistakes. So the more we can bring in the logical part of our brain, the better it's going to be for us, right? Another thing that can help you is saying what you feel out loud, right? Let's say you're in a trade and you start to feel a little anxious. You're like, all right, I feel anxious. And it's like, all right, why do I feel anxious? Well, I feel anxious because this trade is taking a little longer than usual for it to hit my target or my stop loss or whatever it may be. Maybe the average time for the trade to win is 5 minutes, but it's been about 20 minutes and nothing has happened. So you're getting a little anxious. So you can walk yourself through these thoughts and the emotions to come back and be like, all right, well, let's look at the trade. Everything's still valid. It hasn't hit my take profit. It hasn't hit my stop loss. I'm pretty much still good to stay in this trade. This is just me getting overly anxious because of this reason. Everything's good. Let me relax, right? So walking ourselves through our trades and giving the emotion and thoughts that we feel a name can help come back into a logical frame of mind. Also, saying your trades out loud for those who may have, let's say, some trouble with, as an example, counter trend trading, right? Let's say everything is super bullish and you're like, well, I don't think the market can go any higher because of X, Y, and Z. But it's like, all right, is the market even giving you a short setup? Or is this just what you think? Yeah, famous last words. And it's like, is it what you think is happening that what you want the chart to do instead of what the chart is telling you what it's doing, right? So this was a big thing for me before, is like counter trend trading. I'm like, this was like what, during 2021, 2022, I think towards the end of 2021, where I had a real bad problem with counter trend trading. Because I'm like, there's no way the market can be this high. A crash is going to come, inflation, all these things are happening. There's no way that we should continue being this high. And the market keeps on going as high as it wants. It's going to, again, it's going to do what it wants to do. It doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about me. It's going to do whatever it wants to do. So the best thing that we can do is just follow along with the market. If it says go long, go long. If it says go short, just go short. So saying these ideas out loud, like, hey, the market is making higher highs and higher lows. I want to look for a short setup. But it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't really make any sense. So actually hearing these ideas is going to help you come back again to that logical state, as opposed to keeping it in your head, letting it build up and making these mistakes. Anybody ever done that? Keeping it in your head gets too much and then you end up making that mistake? I know I definitely have many times.
Hey Des, I can actually relate to that. On some days I trade with my wife, just sitting next to me while she's learning. And so I walk through my process and I say out loud what I'm thinking and why I'm looking at a trade or what I'm looking for or what I'm seeing. And it it actually helps slow me down and makes me reevaluate what I'm seeing and helps me make sure that I'm trading based on something that really exists rather than rather than making a snap decision without fully going through my checklist. So, I definitely resonate with the idea of saying these things out loud, particularly if we're feeling emotional. It sort of slows us down and gets us back into the right rhythm.
100%. Definitely happy to hear that. Yeah, it's definitely was a big game changer for me because I would always make these silly mistakes that could easily be avoided if I actually heard it. Cool. Lastly, for this quick little section, for those who may have trouble like overanalyzing and second guessing your trades, which I want to speak a little bit about when I'm done with this last section, is just simplify your trading process, right? It's going to help you reduce overthinking and really make it easier for you to stay consistent. When your emotions are managed, but your FOMO is controlled and your process is simple, discipline is going to be a lot easier for you to maintain. So let's say if some of you have, let's say, 10 pieces of criteria that you need for you to get into a trade, but it's actually causing you more harm than good. I'll give some examples. Let's say in order for you to take a long trade, prices have to be above VWAP, EMA has to cross over, MACD needs to do this, an oscillator needs to do that, candles needs to look exactly like this, RSI needs to be, whatever it needs to be. There's way too much going on, right? And sometimes those criteria might even conflict with each other, where one might say go long, one might say go short, stuff like that, right? So just simplify everything. What will make it easier for you to take that trade? Maybe you only need price to be above VWAP and market to just make higher lows and higher highs. Again, just keep it as simple as you can. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, with journaling, this is what's going to help you and keeping track of all these little pieces of data. For me, what helped me a lot was my first 2 years of trading and my first mentors, they used indicators, right? So that's pretty much all I knew how to use. When I met some other new mentors, they just traded up based off of price action, like naked charts, which was like mind blowing to me because I didn't even know how to even do that. And then once they showed me how the way that they did it, it was like a big game changer for me. And it really resonated more with me and the way my mind works. Because with the indicators and stuff, sometimes I'll get those moments where it's like, all right, this thing is saying go long, this thing is saying do nothing, this other thing is saying go short. It's like, what do I really listen to? And it's like, well, if price itself is saying to go long, why not just follow price to begin with? So that's how I simplified my process and really made it easier for myself. Instead of adding all these things and having all these spaghetti lines on my charts that just got me confused over time, right? So the easier we can keep things simple, the easier it's going to be for us to not get emotional and really just stick to our plan, because it's simple enough, right? As opposed to all these extra additions that are probably going to be irrelevant to what you need. Let's see, one last thing that I want to touch upon before we continue to the next area. Somebody mentioned like fear of missing out on bigger moves and taking profit quickly. Understand that if you get into a trade and you follow your plan as you're supposed to, you pretty much did your job. Anything that happens afterwards is just hindsight 2020. Let's say you get into a stock at 5 and your target is 10, and then it goes to 15 after you get out. You may beat yourself up like, oh man, if only I held longer or X, Y, and Z, I would have made more money. But it's like, you're only saying that because you can see the aftermath. And I always like to approach it from this angle. What if it did the opposite? You would actually be happy. You're like, whew, I'm so glad I took profit at $10 because it reversed and went back to 5 or even negative from my entry. So you always just want to be okay and judge yourself based off if you follow your plan or not, because again, everything is based on hindsight after the fact when you get out. Thanks for coming, Alex. See ya. So if you have trouble with beating yourself up after, you get out of a move or you take your profits too quickly or whatever it may be, leave a runner, right? If you, instead of taking your full position off, let's say at the second or third target or whatever it may be that you have, maybe leave a fifth or fourth of your position to see if you can squeeze a little more juice out of the trade. That way, if it does go a little higher, at least you'll be satisfied with you getting a little more profit out of the trade, right? As opposed to just beating yourself up because of what you saw after the fact. Let's see. Let me know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Geotin. If that is how to pronounce it, let me know.
Yep, you got it.
Perfect. Cool name. So that's perfect, right? For those who are not looking at the chat, Geotin mentioned that when his wife would ask him, hey, how was your trading day? He used to say, hey, I made this amount of money. Instead, what he does now is he would tell her, hey, I followed my plan properly. That is the correct mindset to have because, again, our only job is to follow our trading plan. Anything outside of that is out of our control. You can't control how much you're going to make that day. You can't control what the market's going to do. All you can do is control yourself and the way you execute your trading plan. And that's pretty much it. And that's where the money's going to come from. Some days you might make $500. Some days you might make 1,000. Some days you might make a lot more. It really depends on the market and what it wants to do that day. So that's fantastic. And that's the right approach that we need to have when it comes to this. A quick little exercise that I want to share with you guys for those who may be stuck in like repeating the same mistakes over and over and over and over, even though you're aware of them, is get a piece of paper and physically write it down. Don't have it on don't put it on your phone, don't type it on your computer, physically write it down because you really want to get as clear as you can and have an intimate moment with yourself when it comes to what you need to change. So let's say you guys have an issue with over leveraging, so your pattern that you want to change is over risking, over leveraging, revenge trading, whatever it may be. What are 5 to 10 reasons that you must change that pattern? Let's just go over one for each section. One reason that you must change this pattern is because you keep on blowing accounts, which is causing you to having to continuously funding your accounts over and over and over and over. And, whatever else that may be, you're getting further away from your trading goals. What is it costing you by not changing the pattern of over leveraging and over risking? Maybe for you, you may have this like anxiety that you kind of hold as you go throughout your day, or you can't sleep that well because you lost a lot of money that you couldn't afford to lose, or, whatever the situation may be for you. Get as clear as you can when it comes to this. And then, of course, lastly, always leaving it on a positive note. What are the great things that are going to happen once this change occurs? Oh, if I change my pattern of over leveraging and over risking, then my account is not going to blow up. I can consistently get proper results and get clear on what works and what doesn't work for me. I can grow my account as it should, as opposed to making money, then losing it all and just kind of being stuck in that boom and bust cycle, right? So take your time with this exercise. And again, write it down. Make sure nobody bothers you while you're doing it, just so you can focus. Before I get into this last section here that we have, somebody mentioned resetting their mindset after a negative spiral. If whoever did mention that, if you are here, definitely let me know, because I want to kind of get a little more details. But just keeping it a little general, what can help is taking some time away from the charts and anything trading related, right? Because people tend to get in these negative cycles, but they just stay in the trading cycle. They just get on every single day. But you really need that time off from trading just to recoup and, reset your mindset. Like for me, when I was mentioning when my mother was sick, I was trading every single day for those 6 months of drawdown, because I'm like, if I stop trading, then I'm not going to make the money that I need, or I'm not going to get the money back, or what have you. But me staying in that frame of mind and that cycle just caused me to get into a bigger hole. It wasn't until I took a step back and I'm like, all right, if you continue doing this, you're pretty much not going to have any more money, and you're going to be in the situation for even longer. So let me take 2 months off. And that's pretty much what I did. I took 2 months off of trading, got myself a life coach, got myself some therapy, which helped myself a lot. And then when I came back to trading after those 2 months, it helped me look at it in from a clear point of view, as opposed to like that desperation mindset that I was in for all those months, which is causing me to stay even longer in the hole that I was in. So if you haven't, I definitely encourage taking some time off. It's always good for the mind. It's, because trading could be mentally exhausting sometimes. We're analyzing charts all day, waiting for setups. You use a lot of mental energy. So always have some self time for yourself and take care of yourself, because if you're not good, then nothing is going to be good. Cool. Last thing before we finish up in a bit, motivation, consistency, and really finding your why. A lot of traders, from what I've seen in myself in the past, struggled with staying consistent because we haven't really connected my trading to a deeper purpose, right? Without a strong why, it's going to be easy to lose motivation, cut corners, or even give up after setbacks. Every time I speak with somebody that wants to work with me, one of the things that I always ask them is, what got you into trading? Like, why are you doing this? Right? And of course, everybody's answer, I want to be financially free. I want to make a ton of money. I'm like, cool, but like, what's behind that? Right? Hey, thanks, Adam, for coming out. See ya. What's behind the reason that you want to make a lot of money? Right? Do you want to make more money because you want to give your family a better life? Do you want to spend more time with your family, with your kids? Do you want to, you know, get a lifestyle that you haven't lived before? Many different things, right? The more emotionally charged and excited we get about the reason behind what the money will give us, the easier it's going to be for us to stick with it. I'll give you guys a quick example. Let's say you're at your job and your boss is like, hey, I'm gonna need you to work an extra hour for the next 6 months. And you're like, cool. What am I gonna get? They're like, well, probably not gonna get nothing. And then you're not really gonna be motivated to, work hard for that extra hour, right? Probably gonna half-ass your work and what have you. However, let's say your boss says, hey, I need to work on this project for an extra hour every day for the next 6 months. And afterwards, we're going to give you a 15% bonus on top of whatever it is that you make for the whole year. pretty sure you're going to be motivated to do everything you need to make sure that project goes well and do your best for that extra hour every day. You know, you can use that money to go on a vacation for your family, whatever it may be for you, right? So always be sure to be extremely clear on why you're trading and why you're doing this, because money in and of itself isn't necessarily a motivating factor. It's really what's behind the money that's going to motivate us to really stick with it. And lastly, remember that true consistency is really going to come when your goals align with your values, which is going to give you the drive to push through these challenges that you face and stick to your process in trading. And that is, oh, whoops, my keyboard doesn't work. That is the end of the presentation. Thank you, guys. Any questions you have, put it in the chat. Anything that stood out to you or you really learned, let me know.
Thank you. I think that was great, and a lot of reinforcement for people on, some of the concepts that you kind of already know, but it's just like, are you doing it? That's the big thing, right? Like we can know things, but doing is a completely different thing. So I think, as you guys saw with, even with Desi, it's like a lot of it is, stuff that we know we need to do, right? But how do we get ourselves to do it is kind of what it comes down to. And it really comes down to what he was saying is the discipline and having those, checklists in front of you, if that helps, to avoid making those mistakes. But yeah, we'll take some questions. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to either type it in the chat or just unmute yourself and go right at it. So let me know if any specific questions you guys have or any troubles you're going through.
I see Jen mentioned, what if somebody can't really afford to take time off, like to mentally reassess, where trading may feel like it's their only / main source of income? Question for you, Jen, and of course you can share whatever you're comfortable with sharing. Are you in a situation where like you're not working or like you're literally only trading to make money, or what exactly?
Hey, Bessie, thank you so much. It doesn't necessarily apply to me because I do have my main job, but I know for maybe some others, this might be their situation. So I was wondering as a generality. And I mean, the hope is, I to some degree may want to transition as something into full time, but I can still maintain. But I know for some people that this might be the case for them. And if you could just speak in generalities for that.
Definitely. So, of course, as we know, everybody's life is different. We have different responsibilities and so forth. For those who have children, my hat's off to you because, like, I don't know how you guys do it. Every time I go meet my nieces or my older brother, they're like a trip. So, trying to navigate, being a parent, trading, working, all these things can definitely be very mentally taxing. The biggest thing that I can really say for certain situations is, of course, do the best that you can, right? If well, let me not say I'm sure, but write down what helps me in the before was like writing down like my full schedule, right? Like, is there anywhere in your schedule or your routine where you can maybe take some time to yourself, maybe 30 minutes a day, maybe an hour to yourself a day? Or for those who may be in a situation where they're always with their kids, and maybe if you have the possibility of maybe letting your spouse know, hey, I need like an hour or two to myself, you able to take care of the kids or what have you. Navigate the situation as best as you can, right? Because there are some things that I haven't experienced that I can only really speculate on. But for those who, if you can't necessarily take time off to reassess, just do the best that you can, right? Don't try to force it and like get on every single day, because I'll tell you from experience, it's not going to end well. I like to see it as well in the sense of if I'm pretty sure you didn't trade your whole life, right? So before you were trading, what were you doing with that spare time? So if you find yourself, let's say, trading for 4 hours a day, maybe only trade 3 hours a day, then just take that 1 hour to kind of just spend time with yourself and just, reassess. Or instead of trading 5 days a week or whatever it may be, maybe just trade 4 days a week or even just 3 days a week, just to have some semblance of balance to help yourself mentally. I think that will help you guys and put you in the right direction. Of course. Jeff mentioned, I have urges to trade after I hit my time limit. I should journal those and document the setup and why or not why I would do it. It gives me an action other than pushing the button. Yeah, definitely. Another thing, Jeff, that you can do, like I mentioned, is like knowing yourself, right? My schedule for trading, I usually get on at 8:30 a.m. and I get off at 12 noon Eastern time. Once 12 noon hits, I'm shutting everything down. Because again, I know myself. If I stay on the chart to 12, I'm going to take another setup if it appears. So I rather just turn everything off, remove that enticement, and just go do something else. Make some lunch, go for a walk, go do something that's not just stuck on the charts. Because I'll stay for 8 hours a day if I let myself. So in your case, as you mentioned, when you feel those urges, shut everything down and start journaling, right? We're just going to be replacing these habits and patterns that are not working for us and instead switching them with ones that are going to help us out instead, which are going to give us a good result that we want.
Awesome. That was great. Anybody else have any other questions for Desi?
Oh yeah, I've got a question. So now that you've realized all these triggers and kind of adjusted your trading and with time off or shutting the charts down, do you find even after all these changes, you still like need a mental break once in a while, or by doing these things and fine-tuning it, have you pretty much eliminated that?
No, for me personally, I still need mental breaks. Like even this week, I didn't do anything Monday, Tuesday. I wasn't really feeling it. This weekend, while I did sleep okay, I think I got a little sick from, hanging out with friends or what have you. So I'm like, let me just take these 2 days off. I'll just relax and just recuperate and go from there. And going back to the way I see trading kind of like as a business or even like a job, right? If I work for a full year straight without no breaks, I'm going to be mentally exhausted. One thing that happens to me when I know like I need to take a break, if I haven't done it before, I'll like get on the charts and I'm just confused. Like if I completely lost the ability to read charts and I'm like, I definitely need a mental break. And then I'll just take like a week off and just come back refreshed because it can be mentally taxing, being on the charts, supporting students and other groups and such and other things that I have in my life. So it really helps for me to really just force myself sometimes to take those breaks. Usually once a month, I'll take at least 2, 3 days off during a specific week of the month. Not really like the first or the last one. It really depends when that comes up for me, which helps.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Of course. And there are some things as well, just to piggyback on that. What I've learned over time is that some of the habits and bad habits that I used to have when I first started are still present, but because of the systems that we have in place and the techniques that we know, it helps keep them at bay. Because if I don't sleep today and I wake up half awake tomorrow, I can promise you I'm going to make rookie mistakes as I once did before. So it's really understanding ourselves as best as we can and knowing exactly what to do to just keep us in the most optimal state. Thanks for coming, Jen. See ya. Jyotin mentioned one thing he's trying to do is after he enters a trade, he just walks away. If he has done a good job, if if I've done a good job, I already have my entry stop and target in there. So technically there shouldn't be no reason why I can't do that. Yeah, Geotin, I do the same exact thing, right? As soon as I get into a trade, I just set everything and I just go do something else. And then I wait until my alert goes off. Because it's like once you're in the trade, it's nothing else for you to do, but just wait some more. If you find that works for you, definitely keep on doing it. That's what I do sometimes.
All right. Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions or anything you want to talk about? Good. Well, all right. In that case, that is our call for this month. I think it's really good call, much needed. I think it's, just to get that reinforcement off these concepts and just to realize that, hey, we're all, regardless of what style, because, Desi and I probably trade completely differently. But the foundations of like the psychology, the basics, the fundamentals, the foundations are always going to be the same. The risk management, the checklist, the mental control, like that is the same regardless of like how you trade, what style you trade, and all of that. So I think it's just good to not only be aware of these concepts if you weren't, but if you are, continuously reinforcing them and reminding yourself, because it's very easy to get in the habit of, well, I've been trading for 6 years or 7 years. Then you imagine you already got it. But the key is to always be in this conversation, because what happens when you go on your own, right? You go trade, let's say, alone for like 3 months, you come back in, you'll be surprised a lot of the things that you were listening to by being in this conversation will fall off course. So it's like these constant reminders, whether it's picking up, mastering the trader within, reading it again, even if you already read it, maybe picking a Mark Douglas book and reading that again. Like the art of just like staying in that conversation. That's the whole purpose of what we do here is Evolve, is like constantly reinforcing these things, repetition, 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 so that it finally sinks in and it becomes like part of your identity. So, um, really appreciate you hopping on today, Desi. Thanks for the call. And guys, I will share the recording in the members portal, and then that'll have also links to Desi's social media and his YouTube and stuff like that. If you want to connect with him further, if you want to run things by him or chat with him as well. So you'll be able to see all the links up in the recording. But again, thanks for hopping on, Desi. Appreciate you and sharing your
Absolutely.
insights. And
Thank you guys
yeah,
for
we'll
having me.
definitely connect again soon.
I'll see you guys. Everybody, have a fantastic day and enjoy your week.